Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Now, when Peter and I started the podcast, there were 2 issues of Superman that I heavily anticipated, really looked forward to us covering. And a while ago we did issue 276, where Superman met Captain Thunder. And finally, we are now doing issue 301 of Superman, published on the 8th of April, 1976, 1 week after the second birthday of Stuart from Menswear. So that's quite nice. Peter, were you anticipating with great anticipation this issue 301 of Superman?
I certainly was. This is a landmark issue which we'll discuss in depth, I'm sure, after we tell the story.
Well, there you go. I'm overwhelmed by Peter's enthusiasm, aren't you, listeners? Right, you better tell us about the cover then.
At the top, DC Comics salutes the bicentennial, and this is number 9 in the series, as discussed in our previous episode. We have the cigar band with Superman flying, a small Superman logo, the line of DC superstars, featuring the Marshland Monster, Solomon Grundy. And there's a lovely headshot of Grundy himself. 30 cents, number 301, July, and the production code's 30675. Superman, approved by the Comics Code Authority. And under all that, we have a really stunning cover.
Yes.
There's a yellow sky. There's a building in the background with a woman staring out at this scene of devastation on the street.
Panic in the streets of Metropolis, isn't it?
Yes, there's a car overturned. Is that a VW Bug? I'm not entirely sure. There's a motorbike that's been wrecked. There's a policeman who's lying there unconscious. My goodness. There are police cars in the background and someone's running forward with a rifle in his hand, I think, one of the policemen. But what's the cause of all this chaos? Well, none other than, well, the hint was at the top, really. Solomon Grundy is back, and he's double fist punching the Man of Steel. And poor Supes is flying back, looking incredibly pained. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
The Man-Thing is back.
Yep. Grundy last appeared in issue 92 of Just League of America, published on the 20th of July, 1971. So this has been a long time coming. In my headcanon, that's Janet Van Dyne looking out the window.
It does look very much like her, yes. Very much her colours, very much her hairstyle of the time.
Absolutely. It's the Earth One Janet Van Dyne. And yeah, I mean, it's Bedlam in the city centre, as you say, the crushed bike, the policeman lying unconscious on a zebra crossing by the looks of things.
Mm-hmm.
Grundy looks massive. On the socials this week, listeners, I've got about at least 7 or 8 foreign reprints of this one. This is one of the most widely reprinted comics that we've covered.
Wow, good.
I first encountered it when it was reprinted in one of the British annuals.
Yes, me too. I might still have it kicking about somewhere.
One of the reasons I've anticipated it, I'm a big fan of the band The Crash Test Dummies and been able to work for them a couple of times in the last year. And they have a song called Superman's Song, which is devastating and features the line, Superman never made any money from saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And I've always wondered if it was this issue, given the reach of its reprints and such like that, inspired Brad to write it. And I should have asked him when I saw him a few months ago, but I didn't.
Oh well.
I'll do it next time I see him. Or maybe I'll message Devin and ask Devin to ask him for me. It's a great cover. It's very exciting. Grundy just looks bestial, doesn't he? He just looks furious.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the fact that he's knocked Supes out suggests that he's very strong, because obviously they've fought a little bit back in that last JLA-JSA team-up from 71. That was the only one when all the corresponding heroes all
met their counterparts, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and which was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Robin wore that costume for the first time, etc.
Uh-huh.
So there was a Superman Grundy tussle on that one. So this is one for the ages. This is a real keystone, a real milestone, I think, in the journey of the podcast, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I'm very excited that we're covering it. So we jump in and we have an opening splash image, which is also the basis for at least one of the foreign reprints that I'll be sharing on the socials this week. We'll tell you how to check out the socials at the end of the episode. Plenty going on. It's an opening image of Solomon Grundy standing holding a Metropolis bus, which has written on it on the side, we can see, appearing live at the Metropolitan Forum, the one and only Superman, all proceeds to UNICEF. Now, I think that might be the first mention of UNICEF on the podcast. Now, we can see there's a lot going on in downtown Metropolis. The pavements and roads are covered in bubbling green ooze. There are creepers and branches growing up all over the place. There's moss and creepers and branches up the side of this building that Superman and Grundy are in front of. Grundy's holding this bus. Superman is flying down towards them. Grundy is saying,
"You hurt me, Flying Man, and because you hurt me, you die."
And as Supes flies down to punch Grundy in the stomach, he's thinking, Grundy's turning Metropolis into a swamp. I've got to defeat him fast, but in the name of Krypton, how?
Good question, Superman. And you better come up with an answer soon, or it's bye-bye, Man of Steel.
And at the very top of the page, some captioning reads,
Triumph and tragedy in a thrill-packed adventure of Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. I think that's the first time we've had that as a coda.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if I'll have to figure out when that was. Martin will know.
Yes, Martin Gray, if you're listening, let us know.
I wonder if that's anything to do with the movie being imminent and such like, and rights and stuff being negotiated. I don't know.
Quite possibly.
Probably some facts about that somewhere. Maybe an issue, a back issue, or alter ego. Bottom left-hand corner of the image, we get the title of the story.
Solomon Grundy wins on a Monday.
And along the bottom of the page, we get the credits.
Writer Jerry Conway. Artists Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and Bob Oxner. Editor Julius Schwartz.
Jose Garcia Lopez, praise be his name. Now, into the story, and we have to rewind a little, and indeed the first couple of pages of the story are kind of split in two parallel narratives going on. Top of the page, you've got one with Supes. At the bottom of the page, you've got one with Grundy. The first caption, at the top of page 2, reads,
Garden Avenue in Metropolis. 5:31 p.m. on the Monday when Solomon Grundy won.
We kick off with a bang, listeners, or rather with a whoosh. We can see a large car at the side of the road. We're on a pavement outside, obviously a very fancy apartment building or hotel. And there's a large man wearing a purple suit with dark pinstripe. He kind of looks like Joe Fixit, except he's coloured like a human being. And whooshing down to join him on the pavement, a group of 3 men in green bodysuits with backpacks and weird eye goggles, and there's a skull symbol on each of their chests. They look a bit like a weird version of Tripwire from G.I. Joe, if that helps you visualise them. The guy in purple yells,
What on earth?
And the first guy in green says,
Do yourself a favour, pal. Don't move.
Yeah, we got you surrounded, says one of his colleagues. But then there is a massive
Choom!
as Superman flies up from under the pavement and bears the piece of road that the men in green and the man in purple and the car are all sort of stood on, and flies off, saying, True, gentlemen, but now I've surrounded you. One of the guys in green yells,
Oh, nuts, it's Superman.
He and his mate lean over the side of the road, the side of the road that Superman is carrying, that is, and they try to fire their ray guns at Superman, with the first one saying,
He must have found out about this shakedown, and that's just too bad for him.
Yes, he found out about this unofficial spin-off featuring the Sontarans. Good grief. As recently covered in the Power of 3 podcast, I believe, in some form or another. The other guy in green beside him, we can see all the stuff on his backpack. It was very interesting. He also fires his gun at Supes and says, With these here laser rifles, we can burn them to charcoal. There is an interesting sound effect as they fire their weapons, but Supes shrugs it off, saying, Men, you disappoint me. Well-equipped crooks like you not knowing about my invulnerability or my heat vision. And as he says that, he zaps the gun of one of the green guys with twin beams of red light from his eyes. Supes continues, What's the world coming to, anyway? We then see Supes descending outside one Metropolis police station, carrying the bit of road still. One officer walking out as Supes descends, carrying the car and the men, and he's saying, This organisation you men represent, Skull, must really be pathetic. Not only do you waste time hijacking a small-time hood like Samuel Simeon, that's the guy in the purple suit, listeners, you also had word about the plan leak out. Really, you take all the fun out of being a superhero. And then a large caption reads,
Interlude. The other side of space. To be precise, the other side of space we're concerned with now is the dimension occupied by Earth 2, a world much like our own existing on another vibrational plane.
And a little asterisk takes us to a caption that reads,
For more about Earth 2, see All-Star Comics, now on sale.
Or regular episodes of this podcast. And these captions surround that glorious image that we love to see of the two Earths vibrating together on their slightly different vibrational planes. This again is when I say that right at the start we said we would try and remember all of these and stick them to one side and build them all up.
Yes.
We haven't.
No. Might go back at some point as a retrospective.
we'll look back and we'll find them all, and then I'll maybe start an album on my phone or something, and then once the podcast finishes, we'll post an album on Facebook of all of them. That'll be nice, won't it?
Yes, infinite Earths it would be, yes.
Anyway, we then cut to, well, it's a shimmering green dome over an area of swamp. You can see, take a drink, a full moon in the background. But in the foreground, ramming into this shimmering green dome barrier with his head is the horrible, ghastly form of Solomon Grundy. Tall, white-skinned, white-haired, wearing a tattered black suit, a tattered grey shirt, big chunky brown boots, and there is a repeating wham, wham, wham as he headbutts against the barrier. Now, this obviously is the barrier that Alan Scott and Hal Jordan conjured with their power rings in JLA 92 to stop Grundy getting out of Slaughter Swamp. There is some more captioning.
Here we find Slaughter Swamp, and in this muck-encrusted bog, we also find a man-creature called Solomon Grundy, grimly smashing away at an impenetrable green force field, with the same fierce determination he's displayed for years. Not real life, only a weird distortion of it. Solomon Grundy is said to have been created by the strange chemical reaction of sunlight on swampland.
And there's a sort of flashback image of Grundy rising from the swamp with the water bubbling and stuff bubbling off his back and water trailing down, and it's terrifying, quite frankly.
After numerous rampages, he was imprisoned in this swamp by the Green Lanterns of Earth 1 and Earth 2. And ever since, he's stood here, vainly striking again and again.
And we see Grundy pushing up against the barrier with his hands now, as we are made privy to his thoughts.
2 Green Lanterns made this shield to trap me forever, but I will be free! Free! Wait.
And he pulls himself up. In the next panel, Grundy is holding 2 fingers up, and he's looking at these 2 fingers intently, and he thinks,
I remember hearing 2 Green Lanterns, 2 flashes, 2 Earths. 2 Earths! Maybe 2 Solomon Grundys!
The captions return.
Reader, this is an historic moment. For the first time since his creation, Solomon Grundy has had an independent idea. Witness now as he acts upon that idea, turning from the lantern's shield to walk deep into the shadowed swamp.
Grundy walks off away from the camera, and again, you can take a drink because we see the full moon tinted green, and if we turn the page, our caption tells us where we are when it says,
Meanwhile, as the saying goes, back on Earth 1...
This is great because Soups has got the 3 skull guys in their green outfits that kind of now actually I see them, they kind of look like a cross between Cyclops and Tripwire from G.I. Joe, and he's got them all bundled together and he's lifting them up the stairs outside the police station as one police officer tilts his cap back in astonishment as Soup says, They're members of an ultra-secret organisation called Skull, Sergeant. That is, they're called Skull, and he's telling a sergeant. Apparently, Skull has a plan to take over the crime cartel in Metropolis now that Intergang's out of business. And then we see the piece of road that's dumped on the pavement with a car and the guy in the purple suit calling after Soups when he says, Hold it! And he points at the Man of Steel in the next panel and addresses him saying,
I've told the fuzz that I'm telling you, Superman. I've got nothing to do with the crime cartel in this city, be it Intergang or Skull. And if you try to tie me to one, I'll sue for libel.
At this point, Soups flies off, calling back, You're a big man, Simeon. But by the time your crime connections are exposed, I promise you, you'll be a small one. And Simeon shakes his fist angrily as the Man of Steel takes his leave. A caption reads,
We'll see more of Skull in future issues. But for now, interlude, Slaughter Swamp.
Peter now wants to do a portmanteau episode now, listeners, with characters that all have skulls.
It's on my list, actually.
Is it? Oh, for God's sake. Right, anyway, we cut back to Slaughter Swamp on Earth 2, and we see, walking towards us now, with the moon behind him. Take a drink. You take a drink for every single panel along this sequence of 4. Grundy is marching towards us with intent, and he is saying,
Maybe on another Earth is another Solomon Grundy. Someone like me. Someone to be my friend. I go to other Earth, no matter how long it takes.
And he marches towards the camera, and it seems the swamp is bubbling and glowing. Very interesting, and over a sequence of 3 panels, Grundy walks towards us almost, as the swamp bubbles and glows, and he fades out, saying,
I go. I go! I go!
And over a panel showing, again, full moon over Slaughter Swamp, tinted green by the force field, take a drink, a little bubbling pile of swampy goo at the front of the panel is just left on its own, as the caption reads,
And, true to his word, somehow, in some way, Solomon Grundy goes. For the time being, we'll leave Solomon Grundy to rejoin the Man of Steel, who, nearing the Galaxy Building, completes a mid-air clothing change at invisible super speed, covering the red and blue costume of Superman with the familiar blue suit of Clark Kent.
And this is Steve Lombard, who is walking along looking very smart in a sort of white sport coat, and he has a very attractive lady who looks very much like Mary Jane Watson in a blue trouser suit, and they're about to enter Clark Kent's office. Now, he's just flown in the window after having changed from being Supes. We see him alighting as Steve continues.
Terry, my dear, though why a gorgeous girl like you wants to meet a Zero like him when you've got Steve Lombard around?
Let's just say I like the shy type, Mr. Lombard. Okay?
It's your funeral, little lady,
says Steve as he opens the door. See, Clark has made it to his desk in the nick of time as Steve continues.
Hey, Clarky, you got company.
Says Clark.
The girl's name is Terry Cross, and she says you turn her on. Though I can't see why or how.
Terry looks delighted to be there, and she moves forward saying, I just had to meet you, Mr. Kent. I watch you all the time in the 6 o'clock news, and when I met Mr. Lombard at lunch, he said he'd introduce us. You work for Galaxy, Miss Cross? No, actually. I'm a groupie. I just love getting next to stars. And she puts her arms through Clark's right arm and hugs him. Clark looks a little embarrassed as he says, stars? And in the foreground, Lombard palms his face and he painfully thinks to himself,
Of all the newsmen in the world, why him?
Clark and Terry move off. Terry's still holding on to Clark's arm. Steve can only watch them go as he thinks,
I mean, look at the guy. A fantastic chick throws herself at him, and he doesn't know what to do. I know what to do, but the girls throw themselves at me. Maybe it's his aftershave.
Maybe it is, Steve. Who can say? There is a final, almost interdimensional slow dissolve as a caption reads,
Interlude. A timeless zone outside of space, somewhere between Earths 1 and 2. Through the formless mist, something moves.
Fantastic image of Grundy basically walking through the void. Again, we turn the page and it's another double page spread. Very, very good work from Conway and Garcia Lopez and everyone else. A caption says,
Once more in Metropolis, 6 p.m.
We see Clark sat at his desk at WGBS and being watched by Terry, and standing next to Terry with his arms folded looking very cross is Steve Lombard, as a man with a beard operating a TV camera as Clark reads from his script saying, This is Clark Kent with the evening news. This afternoon, 3 costume criminals attempted to kidnap alleged crime boss Samuel Simeon. Lombard, watching Terry, gazing at Clark, thinks,
I can't stand it. I just can't stand it.
Lombard being played by Charlie Brown this week, obviously. Another caption for the next panel.
And less than 8 blocks away, 6:01 and 22 seconds p.m., Solomon Grundy arrives.
This is amazing. Basically, Grundy has phased out through a sort of rippling porthole on the side of a wall. You can see a subway sign, lots of pedestrians, traffic moving, people coming up and down stairs, people pointing at this new arrival. And Grundy looks around and says,
Where is he? Where is other Solomon Grundy?
A woman on the street yells, Oh my lord, a monster! And Grundy reaches forward and grabs a poor unfortunate fellow in a suit, lifting him up, saying,
You are other one.
No, let go, please!
You no look like me.
Grundy throws the man, so he collides with a few other unfortunate pedestrians with a
Wow!
And Grundy walks off, saying,
Must look elsewhere. I find him, or I destroy.
We flip back to the studio with a caption obviously reading,
The WGBS TV News Studio, 6:09 p.m.
Terry and Steve watching, cameramen at work, Clark sat at his desk and he's saying, on the lighter side of the news, 12 Boy Scouts were, but he cuts himself off and thinks, uh-oh, because a red-haired fellow in a brown suit and a checked orange shirt, which makes me think it could be Jimmy Olsen, although we don't see his face and he isn't identified, runs in and yells,
A monster! There's a monster in the streets! Call a camera crew! Call the National Guard!
And Clark still on air obviously, gets a close-up as he thinks, sounds like trouble. But how can I deal with it as Superman when I'm on camera as Clark? Yes, there is one way. And in the bottom half of these 2 pages, we suddenly get gorgeous spread covering Metropolis. We can see all sorts of beautifully rendered skyscrapers and tall buildings and a sea of panicked pedestrians. There's a hot dog seller pushing his barrow away. There's a bus reading Bay City. People running in all directions. Grundy lifting up a car, peering into it to see if the unfortunate driver is the other Grundy. And as all this is going on, picking up from Clark's pondering a moment ago, Superman flies in as a caption reads,
And so, less than 60 seconds later, a crimson streak speeds through the smoggy midtown air, straight for the towering form of the marshland monster called Solomon Grundy. But, wait a second, what about Clark Kent? As you can clearly see, reader, Clark's on the job as usual.
Yeah, because we see the window of a TV shop which is showing Clark reading the news, and we hear Clark saying, A bulletin just handed to me. At this very moment in Market Street, a strange creature is in the midst of a rampage.
The question now is, how? For the moment, let's shelve that question and instead concentrate on action.
We see Supes flying in, thinking, Quite Krypton, it's Solomon Grundy, from Earth 2. Last time I saw him, he was trapped in Slaughter Swamp. What? And then rebounding off of Grundy with a... Whong! He thinks, bounced off him like a rubber ball. Supes flies up, tips down, starts flying back down towards Grundy, thinking, I felt that. Somehow Grundy's become even more powerful than he was before. This time, I won't pull my punch. And Supes flies down, but to no avail. Echoing the effects of the cover, double fist, Grundy punches him with a... Boom! And Supes goes flying back up into the sky. We should point out there's some really interesting detailing on the cinema behind Grundy here. We can see the names Stan Laurel, Oliver Hardy, Terry Austin, Bob Wyasek. Very, very interesting. We see Supes colliding, bouncing almost off the roof of another building with a crash. And he rebounds again up into the air, but manages to grab hold of a sort of radio mast at the top of another building and right himself and gather his thoughts. And we see him putting a fist to his forehead as he thinks, Never been hit like that in my entire life. Never. However, he's gained at Solomon Grundy and now has tremendous power. Perhaps even more than I have. This could be a job for the Justice League. But as long as my fellow Leaguers are off in space, Grundy is my responsibility. And I have to get him under control before he destroys the city. Now, have we cross-referenced to see which issue of JLA was published this month and see what was going on? I haven't.
Neither have I.
Listeners, maybe you could have a look and see for yourselves. Supes flies back down towards the floor of the city, as it were, in this next panel, and we can see that, as we described in the splash image, there are bubbling pools of green goo coming up from cracks in the road, branches and creepers growing. It's almost like Metropolis is turning into a swamp. We see Grundy ripping a window and part of a wall off of a restaurant, his patrons running in panic as Grundy says,
Where is he, little people? Where is other one? Why are you hiding him from Solomon Grundy?
Supes flies up from behind and grapples him, grabbing him under the armpits, saying, Come on, Grundy, fun time is over. You're going to tell me who brought you to this earth and why.
No one brought me here, flying man. I walked to find the other.
And as he says that, Grundy reaches up and grabs at the front of Superman's shirt. He continues,
But you, why you bother Solomon Grundy?
Supes is struggling to heave and get Grundy off the ground, and as he does so he thinks, Incredible! He's so heavy I can't lift him. And of course Grundy has grabbed hold of his shirt and he brings Superman down and slams him into the ground with a massive boom, saying,
You stop bothering Solomon Grundy, or you die.
My goodness. First panel of the next page, we see that Supes has been slammed to the ground and he's fallen down into the sewer with a splash. And a caption reads,
Even a Superman can be stunned by a Solomon Grundy, and when the stunning occurs with great enough force, unconsciousness follows. Born on a gentle sewer current, the Man of Tomorrow drifts into the darkness.
Gosh, Grundy must be very powerful. We see Supes floating off in the sewer.
While, on the surface,
we see Grundy walking away from the hole in the road that he threw Superman through, and we can see that the green ooze or swampy water is much thicker than it was on the previous page. We can see pedestrians and police horses trying to get through it, but we also see a WGBS van splashing through the green goo and making its way towards where Grundy is. A voice can be heard saying, "Wow, Mr. Kent, this is just too far out. That creepy chalk white guy is walking off and Superman has disappeared." We find out who was speaking when another voice replies saying, "That's not all, Terry. Something's happening to the streets. Metropolis is becoming a swamp." And we see what appears to be Clark Kent is standing next to this lady who looks like Mary Jane Watson in the middle of the swampy water next to the WGBS van. Terry, looking at Grundy, asks, "You think Chalky is responsible, Mr. Kent?" Then Clark replies, "I'm so scared. I don't know what to think, Terry." And a little caption with an arrow points at Clark and says,
"Again? Who is this guy?"
In response, Terry says, "You're a great kidder, Mr. Kent." Clark says, "Who's kidding? I'm petrified," and he does look a bit scared. Terry then says, "Oh, come off it. I bet it's just an act. But seriously, huh?" She points, and we see a ripple in the water and a familiar red and blue figure flying up from the marshy water as Terry cries, "Mr. Kent, look!" There's a massive whoosh sound effect as murky green swamp water splashes everywhere as Superman flies up, out and away. Clark yells, "Yeah!" And Terry says, "Hey, great, it's Superman. Boy, you really had us going for a moment, Superman." And Clark says, "Yes, for a moment." And again, we're up in the air as Superman flies back down towards Grundy, who seems to have grabbed another couple of unfortunate pedestrians. And as he flies down towards the macabre man thing, Supes is thinking, Terry must have convinced Clark to bring her along for the ride, which complicates matters considerably. As long as she's around, I can't let Clark revert to his true identity of... And then the next couple of panels have floating disembodied heads of Superman as his thoughts narrate what is going on. He continues, true identity of Steve Lombard. And the next image is described by Superman's thoughts, as Supes thinks, "Back in the studio, I acted at super speed, grabbing Steve and giving him a dose of super hypnotism. Through suggestion, I made Steve believe he was me." This is amazing. It's so cool. As Supes' thoughts continue, "And then I applied a liberal amount of makeup and a voice modifier to complete the job. Since we're about the same build, my clothes fit Steve well enough so no one would notice the difference. When that was done, I returned Steve to the studio so he could replace me while I tackled Solomon Grundy." And this panel is amazing. Hopefully there'll be room for it in the socials because we see at high speed Clark Kent performing the makeup job on Steve Lombard and stripping him down, putting him into his suit, as we then see Superman finishing the dressing up job and pushing Clark, in inverted commas, back towards the studio. You could knock me over with a feather, listeners. Astonishing. Back in the present, Supes' thoughts continue. Speaking of Grundy, it's time to take the offensive again. Starting with a Nova hot blast of heat vision, and with a... We see Supes firing the red light of his heat vision at the swampy ground in front of Grundy, making Grundy drop the two unfortunate passers-by that he'd got hold of. Grundy yells, "Ah!" Supes, obviously spotting the two men that Grundy had dropped, thinks those people would boil alive in that superheated swamp water, but a gust of super breath will carry them to safety. So with a... he puffs, and the two gentlemen go flying. Back to Superman's thoughts. "And that reminds me, the swamp water. Where's it coming from? I've got a feeling it and Grundy are tied together, but how? Huh?" he exclaims in his thoughts as he has flown over Grundy, who has caught hold of his cape, pulling him down, saying,
"Come here, flying man. You hurt me for the last time. All I want is find other one, but you not leave me alone."
"Grundy, wait! What other one? What are you?" But Supes is interrupted as Grundy punches him with a
pow!
And then he grabs hold of him, slams him into the swampy water, saying,
"I not listen to you. I find other Solomon Grundy, and you not stop me."
"Maybe not," yells Supes, "but I can sure try." And with that he kicks up at Grundy with a thraboom, sending Grundy falling backwards. This is astonishing. We can see this is all being observed by policemen, a couple on horseback, and some unfortunate pedestrians. As Grundy rights himself in the swampy, flowing water, Supes flies off, thinking, what Grundy just said reminded me of something. He's fought both the Justice League and Justice Society and knows about the parallel Earths, somewhere in that twisted mind of his. What if he realised the implications? Grundy's always been alone, and lonely. If he thinks there might be another Solomon Grundy on this Earth, he might have made his way here to find his other self. And we see Supes flying off with Grundy running after him. Grundy saying,
Come back, flying man! I must smash you!
Great detailing in the next panel. We see plants growing now amongst the marshy water, which has got cars floating in it now. Very, very good. Grundy reaching for Superman's boot, Supes managing to fly just ahead of him, and thinking, maybe the waters in Slaughter Swamp gave him powers beyond our understanding. The ability to go from one dimension to another, and somehow bring a swamp blight with him, infecting Metropolis. Grundy, chasing after Superman, is yelling,
Smash! Smash! Kill! Kill!
But we see Supes in the next panel looping up behind Grundy as he thinks, my plan's working. By racing ahead of him, I've thrown Grundy off balance. We see Grundy tipping into the swamp with a boom. And Supes loops round behind thinking, which means I can now try this. And again he grabs Grundy under the arms and flies him up into the air, saying, okay, Grundy, we're going for a little ride. Try not to get too hysterical, eh? And Grundy, waving his arms and feet, is yelling,
I kill! I kill!
I was afraid you'd take it that way. Next panel, they're flying it over Metropolis Harbour. And Supes is saying, on the ground it's almost impossible to beat you, Grundy. And in the air, neither of us can win. So the battle's got to be fought in the water. Metropolis Bay. And with a
Splash!
he drops Grundy into the water.
Without hesitation, Superman strikes the oily surface, plunging down through the bay waters after the sinking Solomon Grundy. But as they near the sandy bottom...
I think I went to school with someone called Sandy Bottom. Jokes. Very helpfully we see what Grundy's doing as Superman thinks, Grundy's grabbed that anchor chain. He must be planning to... And we see Grundy heaving on the anchor chain in the next panel as Supes flies up through the water thinking, sure enough, he's pulling in the ship like a fisherman reeling in a catch. And at this point we are given access to Grundy's thoughts as he heaves on the chain thinking,
Ha! Now, flying man, leave me alone. While he busy saving ship, Solomon Grundy go free.
And we see that the anchor has become dislodged and collides with the big rock that Grundy is standing on. We get a nice chang sound effect. Next panel we see Superman breaking the surface of the water and flying up over the ship, thinking, Grundy's won. It's my own fault for bringing him here. I've underestimated him at every turn. I deserve to lose because I've been using my brawn, not my brain. But as of right now, that's over. And we see Supes flying down towards the chain that the anchor is attached to, and he flies right into it and it snaps with a sprink. Gosh. The next panel, the next page in fact, dominated by a large, beautifully rendered image, but the first panel we see the boat, the ship, tipping over on its side, Superman flying around it thinking, I have to devise an ingenious plan to defeat Grundy, or at least halt his rampage. And thinking about my trick with Steve Lombard, I just realised how. And there is a massive whoosh as Supes flies up, bearing the ship out of the water. Is that the sun, or is that the full moon through the evening air? What do you think?
It must be the sun.
Yeah, it must be the setting sun. I think so. A nice detail here where we see the snapped anchor chain hanging from the front of the boat. There's a bit of a slow dissolve.
The Metropolis waterfront, 7:58 p.m. on the Monday of Solomon Grundy's triumph. A soggy creature climbs atop a wormy wharf.
Yeah, we see Grundy on his knees on the deck with water streaming off him. Off camera, a voice says,
Solomon Grundy, my friend.
And our Grundy, if you like, looks around and says,
Who?
And as Grundy gets to his feet, a perspective shifts, and we see another Solomon Grundy standing in front of him, who says,
I have found you, my friend. Now we not need be alone any more.
Our Grundy, the first one from Earth 2, gets to his feet. Standing a nice puddle, he says, You are me. You also Solomon Grundy. And the newcomer replies,
Yes, I am the Solomon Grundy of this earth. For a long moment the two Grundys speak in slow monotones like weary children. And then...
The two Grundys are flying through the docks. One Grundy has his arm stretched in front and he's holding the other Grundy under his arm. And as he flies, he says,
We must leave this place. Go where we not be hunted.
And the original Grundy says,
Yes, I follow you, friend.
Turning the page, listeners, you can take a massive drink when you realise where we are. A caption reads,
Like a child, Solomon Grundy accepts his friend's suggestion without question. And so he soon finds himself in the midst of a grey wasteland called Luna, the moon.
Yes, listeners, we are standing on the surface of the moon. I think that entitles us all to take the biggest drink we've ever had in our lives.
Yes.
I'm going to do that right now.
Me too.
And this is a great image. With the Earth hovering in the background, there are two black-suited, pale-faced Solomon Grundys standing on the surface of the moon. One closest to the camera, we reckon, must be the original, because he looks around himself in the next panel, and a caption reads,
Confused, Solomon Grundy turns to his friend for an explanation. But the explanation he receives is one of silence, as the Grundy of Earth 1 abruptly abandons the Grundy of Earth 2, leaving the marshland monster heartbroken and once more alone.
Yes, and there's a very sad-looking shot of Grundy looking pained and scared and frightened on the surface of the moon. And in the next panel, we see the other Grundy flying away, pulling off a mask to reveal the familiar face of Superman underneath, who is thinking, Grundy won the battle, but I won the war. So why do I feel so rotten? Grundy was a menace who had to be disposed of for the public good, wasn't he? And we see Supes flying down back to Earth as he thinks, sometimes being a Superman isn't such a fun job. I guess this is one of those times. There's a slow dissolve.
Tuesday morning, 9:03 a.m.
And we are with Clark Kent and Steve Lombard, who are standing at an open window looking down over the still swampy Metropolis streets, with Clark thinking, with Grundy's disappearance from the scene, Metropolis and Steve Lombard are back to normal. The slaughter swamp blight petered out, though it left enough slop behind to keep the sanitation department working overtime for a month. And indeed, we can see what looks like a kind of bulldozer and some other cleansing stuff going on, forcing all of the green schlop towards the open manholes down into the sewers. We get an inset shot of Clark looking very much like Richard Thingy off of House of Games, if you ask me.
Richard Osman.
Yes, can you see it?
Yes, definitely,
We'll have to get in touch with him and see if he'll voice Clark Kent for us. Richard Osman thinking to himself, I wonder what would have happened if Grundy had been right. If an Earth 1 counterpart had existed after all. And then we see the remnants of the slaughter swamp schlop pouring down into the Metropolis sewers and bubbling and mixing and seething away as the caption concludes.
Perhaps someday we'll know, Clark. Perhaps Solomon Grundy simply arrived too early. Next issue, the Man of Steel faces his biggest problem when he finds he's 7'2" and still growing.
Well, I remember that one. That's a great story. Well then, I'm knackered after all of that.
I also am knackered.
Well then.
That was wonderful. And of course, I believe this is the Earth 2 podcast debut of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Praise be his name.
Indeed.
Yes, and very good it was too. I mean, this was strangely front-loaded in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Very, very talky and a lot of setup going on. And then once it got going, it seemed like we jumped straight to the battle in Act 3 of the movie.
Yeah, I'm with you. Speaking of movies, this feels like a mashup of movies. Solomon Grundy is very much Frankenstein's monster, especially his whole not wanting to be alone, wanting to find some sort of companionship. And of course, with the swamp spreading about and following Grundy and basically just growing across the city, did it not just remind you of the red weeds from War of the Worlds?
Very much so.
Coming as an effect of Grundy's passage through dimensions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting that actually happened because we didn't really get an explanation for why that was happening.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some dimensional bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Or something from Slaughter Swamp. I mean, I find that fascinating that Grundy, by sheer force of will, was able to just transfer from Earth 2 to Earth 1.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That was really cool.
The power of Slaughter Swamp. He is kind of the Earth 2 swamp thing, so yes.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. I mean, do you want to elaborate on that for the listeners?
Well, he was basically a guy who died in a swamp and reanimated his corpse, basically. And that's kind of what happened with Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and it's worth, of course, listeners, as we all know, that issue 8, I think it's issue 8 of DC Comics Presents, looms in the future.
Yes.
Bear this issue in mind when you get to that one.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting one because we get some sort of glimpses of what's going on in the Superman continuity with chat about Intergang and stuff. And Skull, whoever they are. So
Skull. I like Skull.
Sadly, we won't be dealing with any more of those stories in the podcast, but I'm sure there are other podcasts. I love that Steve Lombard now just pops up on the show occasionally.
I love how jealous he is of Clark. He's just like, you like this guy? Okay, yeah, whatever.
Yes.
But at least it's not practical joking. Steve Lombardi is more just like, hey, I'm supposed to be the stud muffin here.
Yeah.
It's very Anchorman.
It is. Yeah, I wonder if, God, I'm about to say, was Anchorman inspired by Clark Kent and Steve Lombard? Will Ferrell, if you're listening, write in and let us know. I just loved the whole DC multiversiness of this.
Yes.
Given that we're fast approaching our 300th episode, we haven't really done an awful lot of multiversy type stuff.
Yeah.
Really. Stuff where the multiverse aspect is sort of intrinsic to the plot. There haven't been a lot of stories like that yet.
Very true.
And I just love the stuff, the interlude panel of Grundy just making the transference, and in the fact that he just randomly appears in the middle of a wall in Metropolis. That just fascinates me. There's obvious echoes of the Incredible Hulk as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Being on a rampage and wanting to smash and all this sort of stuff, making people panic and run around. I mean, the layouts for this issue are astonishing.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, Garcia Lopez is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fusion. I mean, Jerry Conway's a very imaginative writer. We know this. It feels like he's kind of put a bomb under DC a little bit since he's arrived.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if maybe they worked together on, or maybe it all just came from Lopez, the planning out of, I mean, the pages aren't numbered, but the one that runs on the top, Grundy's arrival, Clark hearing what's going on, and then Soup's flying in at the bottom. That is widescreen, man. That is just, it is amazing. It's definitely one of the best looking comics I think we've done. It's just very fluid and dynamic and action packed. I mean, this was an absolute joy to read.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
It felt like we sailed through it. I think it's probably the most amount of talking I've done in a long time. I felt actually when reading it, I was kind of trying to keep up with it in a way, Yep,
absolutely. I do love Jerry Conway's subtle plug for his other book when he says, "See All-Star Comics if you want to know more about us too." It's very cool.
And again, we'll have to bear this issue in mind with some imminent issues of All-Star Comics as well. We'll have to see how tidy things are or how tidy things aren't in a few months, probably.
Yep.
I was really impressed at Grundy being strong enough to fling Superman about. That was an interesting sort of side effect that, in some ways, kind of echoes Black Canary gaining powers when she transferred from Earth 2 to Earth 1.
He's definitely had an upgrade, and that could be part of the Slaughter Swamp influence. Maybe he's absorbed some of the energy from pounding the Green Lantern bubble all that time.
Interesting.
He might have done that. Bearing in mind it's a combination of magic and science,
It's a theory, isn't it, listeners?
That, combined with the Slaughter Swamp aspect.
Yeah.
And his mindless focus. It's, I can see it.
Because we know that Slaughter Swamp has sort of special powers and weird powers, etc. I'm sure I've mentioned it in the past. One of my favourite comics of all time was an issue of Swamp Thing that Mark Miller did, run about issue 156, something like that, which is a Solomon Grundy story. It was originally supposed to feature the Alan Scott Green Lantern, and maybe in our Crisis Hangover period of the show, we'll maybe do that one.
Yep.
Which I think would be worth doing, because the black box is an alternate version of Green Lantern. We'll see how we feel in 5 years' time.
Put it in the list.
Yep. I remember speaking to Mark Klang about that many, many years ago and just sort of saying, I've got to say that issue of Swamp Thing, Grundy was amazing. And he said, I wanted it to be Alan Scott, but given some aspects of the plot, DC weren't too happy with with him doing that. And I was like, I can see why.
Okay.
I think Grundy's probably my favourite comic book villain of all time.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I love Swamp Monsters.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can see it.
But I say that and I know very little about Swamp Thing. I've read very little about Swamp Thing, but I've got a ton of Man-Thing comics. I've got just about everything Grundy's been in, post-1960 or whatever.
You've got the Heap collections as well, I think, don't you?
Yes.
The original.
I do. I can. They're right there. I mean, I don't know why I've never really got into Swamp Thing. I think the volume of it,
can understand.
Just put me off. Coming too late and a slight. Don't believe the hype about the Alan Moore stuff. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. I'm not even sure where it comes from. It must have been from possibly reading this in the UK annual that reprinted it.
Yeah.
Possibly reading issue of the Man Thing when I was a kid. I think that's what rooted it. Grundy just fascinates me. The whole Cyrus Gold thing, Swamp Monster.
Yeah.
The brilliant stuff that James Robinson did with him in Starman. Again, we give another plug to Ross doing his Starman read-through on Opal City Confidential, part of Stop Let's Team Up. Grundy just fascinates me. That zombie-like image that he's got.
Yeah.
My dream story would be a Marvel DC crossover where he fought Man-Thing.
Interesting.
And you see Solomon Grundy burning as Man-Thing grabs him because Grundy is afeared. Anyway, when we write our DC Marvel crossover...
Yes. Reminds me of that cover of Detective Comics where Grundy's burning.
Yes, which we'll be doing eventually, of course, podcast listeners. Steve, I'll tell you which number it is so you can get hold of a copy if you like. Do you have anything else?
again, my main takeaway from this, apart from the continuity aspect and the way Jerry Conway's building up this whole interconnected DC Comics.
Yes.
Everyone had their own editorial fiefdoms before, really, and it really feels like Conway is trying to add in aspects of different series and different titles to make it feel more like a shared universe.
Yes.
And it's wonderful. It's great.
Strong agree on that, actually, because we've already seen that on Secret Society when he's been starting to fold in
Exactly, yeah.
some of the Fourth World stuff.
Mhm.
And there'll be some more Secret Society on the show very soon, listeners, don't you worry.
Yes, we'll get back to that very soon. But yeah, it just feels like he's the one that's really making a concerted effort
Yes.
to try and put all these jigsaw pieces together as opposed to just make the individual puzzles all over the place.
Yeah. To try and marvelise everything a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's logical here that if he's using Grundy, he's obviously gone and checked and seen when was the last time Grundy was used, how was he left.
Yeah.
And and he's picked. He cares enough about the accuracy because that's something that Roy gets wrong in the future.
Yeah, true.
But we'll come back to that eventually.
So we've got the Earth 2 Solomon Grundy trapped on the Earth 1 moon.
Yes.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I hope you're all filling your charts in accordingly, listeners. Updating the charts that you're all making as we navigate our way through the pre-crisis DC multiverse. I'm updating my chart right now.
Yes, it's that Always Sunny meme that you're doing, right?
Yes, that's it. Oh, that's a thought. We could try and recreate that quite easily. That'd be fun. That'd be quite good.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll use one of the balls of the conference room. We'll get James to take our photograph. It'll be hilarious.
it's a good idea. Good idea.
It's a great idea. Get Logan and Gav to sort of come in and sit at the front looking thoughtful.
James, our official Jimmy Olsen.
Yes. Hi, James, if you're listening. Right, shall we jump to the contemporary correspondence?
I would love to do that.
Excellent. Now, this is only a couple of letters, folks, from issue 305. The first one goes like this.
Dear Mr. Bridwell, it's about time. That small sentence really says it all, but I think I got to clarify it a bit. For many years, Superman comics... Oh no! It's comics with an X. I thought we were beyond that. Oh, I'm very disappointed in this letter writer. Anyway, back to the letter. For many years, Superman comics followed a very predictable format. 1970 saw a change in that format. A small one at any rate. But in issue 296, readers began to see a big change in Superman. He was no longer just a man of steel, but also a human being, with wants and feelings like other human beings. For the first time, Clark Kent was a real person and not just Superman's mild-mannered gag. Still, Superman's finest hour didn't arrive until issue 301. Finally, Superman is breaking away from tradition and is becoming the hero of the 70s. Jerry Conway's tale, Solomon Grundy Wins on a Monday, was terrific. Conway never wrote one like this before. His characterisation of Superman was quite unorthodox, but fun. And boy was I relieved to see Steve Lombard behaving in a civilised manner, rather than try to make Clark look silly in front of Terry Cross. I was also glad to see continuity added to the magazine. Another new and welcome addition to the Superman staff is artist Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. He gave the magazine a refreshing new look, and those large scenic panels were great. One more quick comment before I close, about my favourite character, Clark Kent. Recently, we have learned that Clark is capable of being a He-Man. Even Steve Lombard has learned to respect Clark to an extent. Why shouldn't Clark change? I hope he continues to make advances towards Lois. After all, the two couldn't possibly forget what happened, could they? And that's from Georgine Freyna from Trumbull, Connecticut, I believe.
Yes, there must obviously be some references here to Superman story plot lines that we're not going to be covering because the editorial response reads, if you've been reading recent issues, you know they haven't remembered, they haven't forgotten. What? We'll never know. That's from ENB. The next letter reads, Dear Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Bridwell, Superman 301 is the first comic magazine that has ever stirred me from my silence into writing to you. However, after reading Superman for 10 years, I felt I must make myself heard. Doubtlessly, you will receive numerous accolades for Jerry Conway's debut in the top-selling comic on the stands. However, you will not hear any applause from me. Solomon Grundy Wins on a Monday was not a bad story per se. However, it was not a good Superman story. I'm afraid Conway thinks he's writing for Marvel.
Oh, aye.
One line in particular is definitely not Superman style. Open inverted commas. Really, you take all the fun out of being a superhero. Close inverted commas. Please, would somebody let Jerry look at some back issues of Superman? Yes, that's right. He's the guy from Krypton. Red cape, blue suit, big S on his cape. Maybe you've seen him on TV. Hey, before I sign off, what happened to Kurt Spawn? Surely you're not going to keep using Lopez, are you? No, you'd be cutting your own throats. Kurt must have been sick that month. Thanks for putting up with my first letter. It probably will not be my last, and that's from Dave Blanchard, Rockford, Illinois. Talk about a party pooper.
Wow.
And there's just you and I just praising the marvelising of stuff as well.
Yes, it's embracing the 70s, which is great.
Yeah.
Ah,
Editorial response reads,
Kurt was not sick, but he does like to do something different from time to time. So when possible, Lopez, whom most of our readers loved, will fill in to give Kurt a chance to do something besides Superman.
Gosh. Now, the next letter doesn't really deal with anything that we've just covered, but there is an interesting house ad at the bottom of the page, which Peter will now read to us.
At last, the return of the world's greatest comic, Green Lantern.
Yes, issue 90 of Green Lantern, Green Arrow's publication is imminent, and Peter and I will be doing a couple of issues of revived GLGA before you know it.
Well, hey.
Message me and I'll tell you which ones, folks, if you're not sure. But anyway, we're doing issue 100 because it's got Airwave on the cover, obviously, and there's one with Black Canary walking towards what she thinks is her dead husband, so we'll be doing those ones. There you go. Mm-hmm. Don't say we're not good to you. Go scurrying to the back issue bins this weekend, and see what you can find.
Absolutely, yes.
Anyway.
That was wonderful.
Gosh, Solomon Grundy.
Recorded on a Tuesday.
Yep. Over the years, Grundy's become quite associated with Superman and Batman at different levels, which is interesting, given that, he started off being a Green Lantern foe and then a Justice Society guy and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Supes will have a couple more tussles with him before the end of the show. I can't remember if it's issue 320 and all that with the Parasite or the DCP first. We'll have to wait and see. I think it's probably going to be one of the Parasite.
Oh, spoilers. But we'll cover them all, listeners, don't you worry.
We certainly will.
If you're a big fan of Solomon Grundy, why don't you write to us and let us know? You can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media, because as David says, he's got lots of interesting things for you to see this week.
Very much so.
On Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it is the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. Listeners, as I always say, if you're enjoying what we're doing, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcasts and leaving us a review. You can also consider finding your way to our Linktree page so you can buy Peter the price of a beverage on our coffee page as he edits all of my and coughings and burps out of the recording of this issue of Superman 301.
Only to add them in as outtakes at the end.
We'll have to see. I can't think of any major ones. I really enjoyed this one. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
The DC salutes the bicentennial. As we come to the end of 2025, it's a good place to sort of be on. There's going to be some really, really interesting stuff over the next few months. Mm-hmm. A couple more things to get through before we round out this year. Uh-huh. And some interesting stuff to start off next year as well.
Yes.
But all that, of course, is in the future.
It most certainly is.
In the meantime, we encourage you to join us again in 7 days' time.
Yes, on that bombshell, I've been Peter.
And I've been David. Take care, folks. See you soon on
The Earth
2 Podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
Appearing live at what? How do you say that?
Metropolitan.
God, so it is. I was thinking Metropolis and why is it extrapolating from that? But right.
I mean, look at the guy. A fantastic chick throws herself at him, and he doesn't know what to do. I know what to do, but the girls throw themselves at me. Maybe it's his aftershave.
Maybe it is, Steve. Who can say?
You should try Sex Panther. 6 times out of 10, it works every time. Or whatever the quote is.
After reading Superman for 10 years, I felt I must make myself heard. I'm going to belch. Hang on.
That's one way to make yourself heard.
I'm going to make myself heard by belching. Burp.